Hello, and welcome to Own Your Retirement. My name is Albert Lalonde from Kaizen Financial. If you'd like more information about what you hear during our show today, give us a call at 586-752-7008 or visit us online at www.kaizenfinancialinc.com. That's Kaizen, Kaizen. And while on my website, click on my podcast page to check out past shows and also to subscribe to our program on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or Amazon Music. All right. So, when the federal budget bill, commonly known as the Big Beautiful Bill, was signed into law in July 2025, we did a show walking listeners through the bill and describing which elements may affect them the most. Well, in the weeks since the episode went live, I've received a number of calls and emails from my clients that are seeking more information about what the bill means specifically for Social Security. So, while we address Social Security in the bill during a previous episode, I thought it would be a good idea to go into more detail, about it during today's show. So, but before we go into or get into that important subject, let me introduce something else important. My co-host, Tony Shore. How we doing, big guy?
I don't know about important, but I am something else.
Oh,
I've been told I'm something else.
you're
Uh,
always important to me. To me, you are.
good, good. Well, hey, I do feel special when I get to spend part of my day with you,
Oh,
talking about finances.
yes.
And now we've been hearing so much about this. There's been a lot of misunderstanding. Our taxes, have they taken away taxes on Social Security? Because right
Mhm.
now, Social Security can be taxed up to 85% of your Social Security income
Yes.
can count as taxable income, depending on how much money, taxable money, you're taking out of different various accounts each year. So you've got to watch that, and a lot of people are curious if the bill does anything to address that. So we're going to dig into that, and I can't wait to ask you about that, to have you clarify this so we're all on the
Mhm.
same page and we know what we need to plan for. It's a hot off the presses show, so that's always fun. But I've been doing good. I know
Good.
you recently had a company outing for you and your employees, got to spend
Yeah.
some bonding time together. I like those team building events. I think that's really important.
Yes, we got to keep all the staff sharp and
Yeah.
motivated, and that way everyone gets taken care of.
Yeah.
Yeah, and all.
Yeah, well, you're a good boss to do that for your employees and take them all out. They had a day off to kind of have a team building experience there. That's good.
Yes,
Yeah,
yes.
yeah, and I've been doing good. Just been spending some time with my parents because, as you
Good.
know, they're in long-term care, and that's
Yeah.
that's tough. But
Yes.
and as an only child right now. For the first, I've always loved being an only child. They always joke spoiled rotten, and I go, yeah, I agree with that.
Right.
That's why I love it. But for the first time in my life, I'm telling people I wish I had three sisters,
Yeah, to
because
help
if
you.
I had three sisters, the stress on my mom and dad wouldn't be so. I wouldn't have to carry the weight by
Right.
myself. I love my parents, but it's and I
It's a
don't
lot.
live super close either. That's
Right.
part of the problem.
This is
Well,
still taking care of your children too. I mean, there's a big
yeah,
in
yeah.
between.
Sandwich generation, right? They
You
call it.
got
I'm
it.
part of
You
that
got it.
sandwich generation, Gen X, getting caught between aging parents and still having three kids on the payroll. Actually, I only have one and a half kids on the payroll. We got one off completely, one's
Good,
about
good.
halfway off, and the other
Alright.
is fully on yet. But we're getting there. They're all in their 20s now, so
Yes.
we're getting there. Albert, I know you've been busy as well, but let's dig into this. Where do you want to
Yes.
begin?
Well, let's go ahead and begin with the USA article titled Social Security Tax Breaks, What the Big Beautiful Bill Really Means for 88% of Retirees. Okay, so at the outset in this article, let me be clear that I don't have a political dog in this fight, so just remember that. I simply do my best to find the facts and then share them. And as I'm sure many of you already know, some people think this new budget bill is great, and others think it's a nightmare. So, Such is the nature of politics, I guess. But first, let's look deeper into the claim that 88% of people receiving Social Security won't pay any taxes on their benefit. At least according to the article, that 88% figure was touted by the Council of Economic Advisors, among others. Now, one of the biggest talking points is that 88% of Social Security recipients could soon be exempt from federal taxes on their benefits. And while that headline sounds great and it's meaningful, it's also important to understand the full picture. Okay. So here's what we know. First off, this isn't a jump from 0 to 88%. Right now, about 64% of seniors age 65 and older already don't pay federal tax on their Social Security benefit. And that thanks to existing exemptions, deductions, and obviously income thresholds. Now, the current proposal would increase that number to 88%, mainly by introducing a new deduction. So, for those who qualify, if it would reduce the taxable portion of the Social Security or their Social Security income, in some cases, even down to zero, but it's not a total elimination of taxes on benefits. In fact, the deduction amount is $6,000 per person. And while that could offer real relief for many retirees, it's also important to note that the deduction is set to expire in 2028. So, unless it's extended or let's say made permanent, we could see the percentage of seniors paying tax on benefits revert back to the current levels back. Now, this all applies to federal taxes. And it's also worth remembering that 9 states currently tax Social Security to some extent. The good news is, in most cases, those state level taxes are applied gently and not at all, depending on your income. So,
Yeah, yeah, that's good. If you're unsure how all these changes might affect you or a loved one out there, you need to be working with a financial professional, somebody like yourself, Albert. This is what you do. I know
mm,
it's your job to help people stay informed and make the thoughtful decisions about their financial future that will protect them and keep them from making expensive mistakes. So pick up the phone, give Albert a call and your team there. I have a question though. What are the 9 states that do tax Social Security?
well, the good thing is, it's not Michigan, so
Yeah,
follow
it's not
my
Michigan.
plans,
That's
that's
good.
good.
Yeah.
Through the Motley Fool article titled, 41 States That Don't Tax Social Security Benefits, they actually include the list to be that does tax Social Security to some extent. It's Colorado, Connecticut, Minnesota, Montana, New Mexico, Rhode Island, Utah, Vermont, and West Virginia. However, the article adds some interesting details about that list of 9 I just gave. Hearing that list might, let's say, cause a little worry for the people in those states, like yourself, Minnesota. But let's break it down together because the truth is, not everyone living in those states actually ends up paying tax on their Social
Sure.
Security. It all comes down to income, obviously. Now, for example, consider Connecticut. If you're a single filer or married filing separately and your adjusted gross income is under $75,000, your Social Security benefits aren't taxed by the state. If you're married, though, filing jointly or filing as head of household, that exemption applies if your AGI is below $100,000. Now, for you, other states like Minnesota, New Mexico, Rhode Island, and Vermont also have income-based exemptions. So the thresholds are different in each state, but the pattern is similar. If your income falls below a certain level, you may not owe any state tax on your benefits at all. And then here's some potentially encouraging news, especially like out of, let's say, West Virginia. The state is in the process of phasing out its tax on Social Security benefits. So for the 2025 tax year, West Virginia can subtract 65% of their Social Security benefits from their taxable income. And then starting next year, that jumps to 100%, effectively removing the state tax altogether. So the
Mm.
bottom line is that state taxes on Social Security aren't always a given, but the details can be tricky. And it really depends on your unique situations, your income, your filing status, and definitely your long term retirement strategy.
Yeah, and that's why it's so important to work with a good team of professionals
For
like
sure.
yourself who work alongside tax professionals to make sure your clients and people you talk to have all their ducks in a row. Let's take a moment to let our listeners know, in fact, how they can get a hold of you to set up that no charge, no obligation consultation, Albert.
Yeah, folks, if you'd like more information about what you hear during our show, give us a call at 586-752-7008 or visit us online at kaizenfinancialinc.com. That's Kaizen, Kaizen. And while at my website, like I said, just, what I would say is just give us a call. Reach out if you're really concerned about how this bill is going to affect your Social Security right now, because it does make a big difference, but it does help a lot of people to be in the positive side of this, Tony.
Oh, for sure. And you've been talking about this federal budget bill. It's being referred to as the big, beautiful bill, and big is right. Shortly after it was signed into law in July, we did a show breaking it down a little bit. But
Mhm.
a lot of people voice concerns about what this bill means for Social Security. And I'm glad you're breaking that down for us today. What else do you have for us?
Well, let's stay with that Today article. It's still titled Social Security Tax Break, What the Big Beautiful Bill Really Means for 88% of Retirees. Let's talk about a piece of legislation that's probably gotten the lion's share of attention since it was signed into law, like you said, in July, especially for those in or nearing retirement. Now, the $6,000 tax deduction that could impact how much of your Social Security benefits are subject to federal income tax. Here's how it's currently written based on the version passed by the Senate, obviously back in July 1st. If you're 65 or older and your modified adjusted gross income or your MAGI is $75,000 or less as an individual or $150,000 or less as a married couple filing jointly, then you may be eligible for the full $6,000 deduction. Now, for people with higher incomes, the deduction doesn't disappear right away, but it does start to shrink. So if your income reaches $175,000, let's say as an individual, or $250,000 as a couple, the deduction then phases out entirely. So, what does this mean in practical terms? It means that many retirees could see a reduced tax burden, especially those with moderate incomes, but it also means this benefit is income sensitive as well.
Hmm. Well, and to me, this kind of change highlights why it's so valuable, again, to work with somebody like yourself. I mean, these numbers aren't just abstract, they could directly affect your income tax and all your strategies, even your eligibility for other benefits, then.
Yeah. Oh,
Yeah.
yeah. I mean,
Yeah, and so I think if you're wondering how this might apply to your situation, how to structure your income to take full advantage of opportunities, reach out. They can give you a call because obviously the bill does provide some good things, but you have to be able to take advantage of those things and know what they are, right?
yeah, I mean, for sure. And now, if you really, think about this, all of this, the deduction, the income thresholds, the potential tax savings, it's on the surface. It sounds like good news, especially for those who qualify. And remember, and this is only going to be for 4 years because it's temporary. And so you have to be at least 65 right now. So a lot of people that are collecting at 62 aren't don't get that right now if you have to think about this. And so there's a lot to it. It's not like I said, many retirees, any opportunity to reduce taxes and to keep more of their benefit, it's always welcome. But here's where it's important to zoom out for a moment. We also need to keep an eye on the long-term health of the Social Security system as well. Right now, according to the article, Social Security is facing a projected funding shortfall, and by 2035, it's estimated that the program may only be able to cover about 81% of scheduled benefits if no changes are made. Now, that shortfall is largely due to the fact that more money is going out than coming in, and a portion of that incoming revenue comes from taxes on benefits.
Hmm.
So, if fewer people are paying taxes on their benefits, this new deduction could accelerate. That could mean even less money supporting the program. So, in other words, while the deduction may offer relief now, it could also potentially speed up the timeline for Social Security's financial challenges or result in reduced benefits down the road for everybody. Now, again, this isn't about fear, it's about being more informed than being proactive. This is why a thoughtful, personalized strategizing matters. Take tax breaks, income thresholds, program projections. These are all moving pieces, and it's our job to help connect the dots in a way that protects, well, all of our clients' long term goals.
So, and I have a question for you. I've heard that it's possible that the deduction highlighted in the new legislation could affect Social Security's long term financial stability. Is that
Mhm.
true?
Yeah, first we should note that Congress changes every 2 years, and that means legislation can change over time. So
Sure.
things in a new budget bill could be potentially tweaked or even eliminated in the coming years. But as for your question, if we refer to an AARP article titled "What to Know About the New Tax Deduction for Older Adults," earlier we talked about how this new deduction could lower the tax burden for many retirees. But as always, there's more to the story. Many people don't realize that taxes on Social Security benefits don't go into the general U.S. Treasury like other income taxes do. Instead, that money goes directly into two specific trust funds, one that supports retirement and survivor benefits, and the other that supports disability benefits. So in 2024, those taxes brought in around about $55.1 billion for Social Security. Now, to put that into perspective, that's about 4% of the program's total revenue, the bulk of which still comes from payroll taxes paid by workers and employers. And while 4% might not sound like a lot, every piece matters when you're talking about a system this large and this important. Now, the trust funds are already projected to face shortfalls, possibly as early as 2034, unless changes are made. If that happens and no action is taken, well, we could see across the board benefit cuts of about 19 to 20%. Now, to dig a little deeper, the Retirement and Survivor Benefits Trust Funds, which is the one that serves most retirees, that's actually expected to face the biggest challenge. It could be depleted as early as 2033. And according to estimates from the Nonpartisan Committee for a responsible federal budget, some of the provisions in this bill, including the new deduction, could move that date up to 2032. But again, this isn't about taking a stance for or against any particular bill or policy. It's about understanding how all these moving parts affect your retirement outlook and getting ready to make smart decisions in the face of uncertainty. And that's why having a strategy that's flexible and responsive is so important, Tony.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's why we're talking about the big beautiful bill today, and that's of course that federal budget bill that was signed into law on July 4th, the 4th of July. And but today
Mhm.
we're talking about you've been bringing up points about what it means for Social Security. I've enjoyed this show. What do you have lined up for us next?
Well, see, and if we look at this, let's continue and push forward with our more detailed discussion of this big, beautiful bill by
Sure.
next considering how it may help those with significant assets. Actually, another article, Kiplinger, titled Five Big, Beautiful Bill Changes and How Wealthy Retirees Can Benefit, has some eye opening details. The first change we should discuss is that the SALT cap is increasing from $10,000 to $40,000. That's big. The new $40,000 cap phases out for higher incomes, but if your taxable income is more than $500,000, that $40,000 starts to shrink, and by 600,000, it drops back to $10,000. Well, that new cap is also temporary, so remember that, with an expiration date that triggers in 2030. So we're looking at a planning window. And for those who itemize, especially those close to the standard deduction threshold, this could be an opportunity, especially for charitable giving. Between now and 2029, your donations may provide a bigger tax benefit than they will after the cap expires. But like many strategies, this one is highly personal. Your income, your gifting plans, and your future tax law changes all play a role. So that's why you should work with a financial service professional and a tax professional to model different scenarios and help clients make smart, confident choices.
Yeah. Well, we all want to make good choices in building a financial strategy with your assistance and a tax professional. That's a powerful 1-2 punch right there. You got to assemble a good team that's going to be looking out for your best interests. And these are things you do day in and day out. And you stay on top of these changes and figure out ways and strategies so they can help your clients.
Right, right. Well, we have to understand with every new legislation changes, the main thing everyone always wants to refer to is the taxes. What did it do to taxes?
Yeah.
My taxes, companies' taxes, all of those, and deductions and everything. I mean, if you itemize, this is encouraging news. If you give to charity under the current proposals, couples who take the standard deduction will still be able to deduct up to $2,000 in cash contributions to qualified charities. I mean, that's a big deal for folks in their 50s and 60s who regularly give smaller amounts. Now, in the past, those gifts may not have reduced your tax bill, but this change means they finally can. So if you're swiping a card or writing a check to a favorite cause, that generosity can now come with a bit of a tax benefit. If this sounds familiar, it's because we saw a similar provision in the CARES Act back in 2020 and 21. Now, for larger gifts or let's say more advanced strategies like funding a trust or making donations over age 70 and a half, some financial service professionals will still likely recommend appreciated securities or qualified charitable distributions, QCDs, we call them. One other thing to watch for those who do itemize, there's now a 0.5% charitable giving hurdle, similar to how medical deductions work. That means the first portion of your giving may not be deductible. So, again, standard deduction donors could actually come out ahead.
Yeah, they're really pushing the standard deduction, and it's huge for seniors. I mean, those over 65, if you're a couple, you're each going to get an additional $6,000 on top of your standard deduction. So if you add all the standard deductions for those over 65, the regular standard deduction, the over 65 deduction per person, which I think is $1,600 each now, plus the $6,000 each on top of that, you're looking at $45,500 in standard deductions
Yeah.
for the average couple over the age of 65.
Isn't that something?
Unless you, as a couple, once you make, if your taxable income, adjusted gross income, is more than $175,000, then it phases out. But man, that's still a huge. I have another question. Another big change I keep hearing about is changes to the estate tax exemption.
Yes, yes. Before this new bill, we remember we had an older bill that if we didn't fix or change something or keep what we had from the Jobs Act in 2017,
Yeah.
everything would have dropped back down to $7 million per person for next year. But thanks to this latest legislation, that exemption will instead rise to $15 million per person in 2026. Now, for most people, that's not a number they ever have to worry about.
Right.
For those with significant estates, it means there's less urgency around using strategies like irrevocable trust just to avoid estate taxes. Now, that said, estate planning is still critical, but it's more about control, efficiency, and managing income and capital gains taxes than it is about the estate tax itself. Now, for those who aren't focused on leaving a large legacy, this can be a great time to spend Roth and taxable dollars in retirement. And if charitable giving is part of your plan, we'll, we'll likely recommend using, let's say, pre-tax accounts like IRAs to fund those gifts more efficiently. Now, if leaving a legacy is important, then Roth conversions and spending down traditional retirement accounts might make sense. But remember that Roths aren't the right fit for everyone. Timing, tax brackets, and your long-term goals all play a role in that.
Well, sure, Roths are definitely worth a conversation with your financial professional like yourself before any final decisions are made. And as you just explained, they might not be the right fit for everyone, but you usually do want some money in that tax-free bucket for retirement. And there are also maybe other options available for your own needs and strategies. And again, that's where you come in. This is what you help people figure out, isn't it?
Yeah, big time. And if we talk about well, let's take a moment to highlight something that isn't changing, but has a big impact on our planning conversation still. The tax cuts from the 2017 Tax Cuts and Jobs Act were already always set to expire for individuals in 2026, but that wouldn't mean that a return to higher marginal tax brackets can't be in the future.
Yeah.
Under new legislations, those current personal tax brackets are staying in place for now. That's the other big thing that people don't realize. And
Yeah.
while nothing in Washington is ever truly permanent, we know this.
True.
Having clarity on next year's brackets actually gives us more confidence in our planning. For many people, that means continuing to strategically convert to Roth IRA, especially up to the 24% bracket. No, it's not the right move for everyone, but it can be a great tool if you're trying to manage future required minimum distributions, Social Security income, and rising tax exposure in your 70s. Now, the 24% bracket is wide, and you may want to work with your financial service professional to take advantage of it before you hit that RMD age, which is 73 or 75, depending on your birth year. So these proactive moves may help soften that tax hit later on in retirement, guys.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's huge. A lot of information packed into today's show.
Yes.
But before we wrap up, is there anything else you want to add for our listeners out there?
Folks, if you're really concerned and want to learn more about the bill, how it affects you, visit my website at kaizenfinancialinc.com. That's Kaizen, Kaizen, or call my office, 586-752-7008. Discuss how we can answer your questions and address your concerns about Social Security, your financial strategy, or any other parts of your retirement. Remember, it's our goal to help you prepare for your retirement that you've worked so hard for so you can own your retirement.
All right. Well, Albert, great show today. Enjoyed the topic. It's a hot one.
Yes.
Listeners, thanks for tuning in. That does it for today's episode of Own Your Retirement with our host, Albert Lalonde.
Take care, everybody.